seconds here before we go live, and when we do, I'll introduce you, and we'll just start from there. Okay?
Okay. Whatever. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If I move the phone, like if I do this,
Mhm.
would that be all right?
Yeah, that's
While
fine.
we're
That's
doing
perfect.
it,
Yeah, we're live right now,
like
actually.
as
So
long as I keep you.
yeah, as
Oh,
long as you keep
okay.
me, we're good and live now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Phil Esposito interview here. I am so proud to be a part of this. I want to say thank you to Universal Distribution for allowing me to be a part of this, and of course the Sports Card Expo, Steve Minzy and the team. Thanks for having me on to interview an absolute hockey legend, Mr. Phil Esposito. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, Eric. How are you?
I'm
How's
great.
the weather up there? Okay.
Actually, I'm in Dallas, so no, it's not
Oh,
okay.
really? It's hot.
It's hot. It
Me
is.
too.
It's,
Yeah.
where are you coming from us today?
Tampa, Florida.
Okay, at least you're near water, though. You can go to the water.
That's true.
That's
I'm
true.
not gonna drink it though.
No, you're not going to drink it, man. So this
Go
is
to
going
the
to be
beer, I might drink it.
absolutely, absolutely. So just for you guys who are tuning in and you don't know, Phil is a Hall of Famer. He's a two-time Cup winner, a two-time Hart winner, a five-time Ross winner, a two-time Pearson winner, and an eight-time All-Star. I think the only thing that he didn't win was like softest player in the NHL. I don't know if that's still an award or not, but you have one hell of a career, sir. That's awesome thing. How did you just like? Is that longevity? Is it stability? Is it staying healthy? What happened?
I think probably mostly it was staying healthy. I've had injuries, no doubt about it, but the most major one was in 1973 in the playoffs against the Rangers, and but I didn't miss the next season. I was scheduled to come back in January, but I had a medial collateral and the other anterior cruciate ligaments all messed up. I got hit by Ronnie Harris in a playoff game with the Rangers. We played 2 out of 3 then. It was the first game of the playoffs, and then I came back. The doctor told me I'd be lucky to be skating in January, and I'll never forget this. I called my friend Kenny Hodge, who was also my line mate,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to a place in Waltham, Mass. And I actually went on the ice with the big Joe Namath Lenox Hill brace that Joe Namath wore
Mm-hmm.
when he was playing football. And I wore it almost the rest of my career. I didn't
Wow.
wear it the last 2 or 3 years. I just didn't feel like I needed it. And but that was the main injury. But I remember this because September 28th, 1972, Paul scores the winning goal. Henderson, we beat the Russians. September 28th, I come back in 73 and play an exhibition game against the Blackhawks and my brother Tony, and I got a hat trick. And the rest is history.
You got a hat trick. Was your brother in goal that day?
Of course.
So you got a
if he
hat
wasn't
trick.
a goal, I probably wouldn't have scored.
You guys, that's great that you bring up Tony. You're a big hockey family. What's it like? I mean, what was it like playing with your brother in the league at the same time? Was there always comparisons and always? Well, I mean, I guess my first question would be,
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, Tony was he is a complete different personality than I.
Okay.
Day of a game, I have no problem talking, calling his wife and calling him on the phone, but he would never speak. He
Really?
wouldn't talk to me.
Huh.
No. In 72 in Russia, I remember who was it that asked me? Actually, it was 77 at the World Cup in Vienna. Walter McKechnie said to me, he says, your brother, he doesn't say much, huh? I says, why don't you go say hello? And he walked over to say hi. And my brother looked at him and told him to get the F away from him now. Waller said, what's wrong with him? I said, that's Tony's way of getting into the game. For me, it was a lot different. When Tony had to play, he would sit by his stall and he'd rock. And he'd be thinking of the game, of who's he playing with. Where I would think of who the defensemen were and who the centermen were, but I wouldn't be thinking until after warm-up. And Tony would be doing that probably an hour and a half before the game, before even warm-up. And a lot like Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr used to go in at 3:34 in the afternoon for a 7:30 game. I mean, holy crap. I used to get there as close to 6 as I could.
Got beers to drink.
Why do I want to hang around? Yeah. Well, not that. You just wanted to. I like to just relax and I have my stuff and I had my rituals, but they weren't as severe as my brother's. Tony was something else when it came to that, but he was a goalie.
Right.
Have you ever met any sane goalies, Eric?
Never. No, not one. Not one. Hey, I had a few questions lined up, but we got some questions coming in. I want to get straight to these. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Awesome. Michael wants to know, in your opinion, what was the bigger accomplishment, winning the Stanley Cup or the Summit Series?
Stanley Cup. Bingo. Bongo. Right on. That's what you're born and raised to think about as a player, and it was great. The Summit Series was a political football, which I hated. In fact, I turned it down 3 times. 3 times I turned it down. My brother didn't want to play, and I turned it down until Bobby Orr called me. And when Bobby called me and asked, he said, Phil, I can't play. My knee is bad. We really need you to play, you and your brother. I said, Robert, for you? Absolutely. But Harry called me, I turned it down. Fergie called me, I turned it down. Eagleson called me, I turned it down. I would have turned it down 20 times if Eagleson kept calling. But when Bobby Orr called, that was it. That was it for me. And I went. And we were told that it was going to be more like an exhibition series, like the way the All-Star game is played now. Not very entertaining.
I see.
At least I don't think so. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Not very much. Glenn wants to know, he wants you to speak to a minute, if you can, about the Bruins and Rangers game when Milbury climbed into the stands and a fight broke out.
I'll tell you what. I had a breakaway from the blue line in on Cheevers. And I'm coming down, and I know Jerry, so I thought he would just try to come out and poke check me a little bit. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a tennis ball, landed right in front of me and bounced over me. And Cheesy surprised me. Somebody threw it from the upper deck. They just threw it on the ice. And maybe they're trying to hit Jerry so that he'd mess up. And Cheesy got me. He poke checked me. And I got so upset. I couldn't believe it. And I slammed my stick, broke it, and I headed because the game was over. The bell went. Cheevers was in the Bruins locker room just down the hall from the Ranger locker room. And we hear this ruckus. I come out of the locker room. I had a beer. Cheesy comes out of the locker room. He had a beer. And I asked the people, the ushers or whatever, the security, so what's going on? He said, the Bruins are gone into the stands against the Ranger fans. I looked at Jerry. He looked at me. And he said, nah. I said, nah. And we sat down on the floor in the hallway and had a beer together. So I didn't even see it.
That's funny. That is a great story. I wonder if they even noticed that you guys weren't out there and you were just having a beer in the back.
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
That's a great story. Chris wants you. Can you talk about Chico Mackey for a moment?
Oh, Chico. Chico is one of my favorite people in the world. Chico grew up in Sault Ste. Marie, where I did. And when I got called up by the Blackhawks, January the 16th of 63, I believe it was, I got called up. And Chico and I became friends right away, along with Bobby Hull. And the 3 of us became sort of inseparable on the road and stuff like that. We'd go and have dinner together and have a few beers or a bottle of wine or something together. And the thing I remember about Chico is how much he smoked cigarettes and drank coffee. It just used to blow my mind that this guy could skate as well as he did. And then I met Guy Lafleur, and I understood it doesn't matter. But I just, Chico was just a great, great guy. And Bobby Hull, I learned more about life and about the game of hockey from Bobby Hull than anybody else ever. He was the best. Bobby was one of them, and still is, one of my best friends, and I just really like the guy. He's just terrific.
The Golden Jet. Can you talk about that nickname, the Golden Jet?
Well, that's when he had hair.
Yeah.
Come on. Eric, it's like, now it's like yours.
Yeah, like mine, right? That's funny.
But actually, when I met Bobby, I was 17 or 18. He was the community grand marshal with a guy named Tommy Common, who was a Canadian folk singer or country western. I can't remember now. And they were, we had our community day parade, and they were the, what do you call it, chairmans or whatever you want to call them. I can't remember what they're called now. But, and I went to a dance after in the Memorial Gardens in the Sioux where we played hockey. And Bobby came up and asked my girl if he could dance with her.
Oh, wow.
And I was, what? And he did. He took her out on the dance floor and he danced with her. And then after the second dance, I walked out there and I said, hey, listen, Linda, come on, we got to go. That was my first wife, by the way. I said, come on, we got to go. And Bobby said, no, take it easy, kid. And I turned to him and I said, someday I'm going to be playing with you and I'm going to bring this story up.
That's
and
funny.
I did. And he remembered.
And he remembered.
Maybe that's why he became my best friend.
That's funny. That's funny. Hey, Mr. Stoffman, he chimes in here and he says you have some mutual friends and you scored your 100th point against his pal Joe Daly, but he also wants to know about Doug Stolhan and Eddie Garcia before they became journalists. Can you share stories about Mr. Doug Stolhan and Eddie Garcia? Phil looks a little confused.
I don't know Doug Stolhan.
Okay, all right.
Eddie Garcia. I play golf with a guy named Eddie Garcia.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm sorry. Right. I don't know.
That's all right, Hart. We'll get back to that later, and maybe we can talk about it. Roger, okay. Who was Phil's most disliked Russian player in the Summit Series?
Oh, Mikhailov. No doubt about it.
No doubt about it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. He I guess I could tell this story on this.
Okay.
I think I can.
Yeah.
In game 8, he speared me right in the testicles.
Really?
Okay, he got me good. Oh, he got me good. And I couldn't do anything about it because we were down 5-2, 5-3 going into the third period. So I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't want to sit in the penalty box.
Mm-hmm.
And all that time, for 40 years, I harbored this ill feeling to this guy because I never got him back.
Right.
And when I went over there in 2012 for the 40th anniversary, we went over to Russia, a bunch of us guys from the 72 team. Boris Mikhailov was right there. He was at the plane, actually, to meet us along with Tretiak and Yakushev, who has become a very good friend, by the way, both Tretiak and Yakushev, and Boris somewhat too now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he comes up, and I shook hands with him, and I looked him right in the eye, and I said, I don't like you. We just got off the plane.
Right,
and he said to me, I don't like you. I said, well, you know why I don't like you? And he just looked at me. I said, you speared me in the balls when I never got you back. And he went, no. you got me back. After series had to go into hospital for back of my knees from all the spears you gave me in the back of my knees. I said, I did that? He said, yeah. I put my hand out. I said, we're even. That's a true story.
That's a great story, Phil. That's a great story. I feel like this is a good setup here. Dan wants to know, do you have any stories about Mike Shaky Walton?
Oh, God. I have one crazy story when we were in St. Louis at the Chase Park Hotel, and we had these rooms with balconies. And we had flown all the way from Vancouver, and we had had a few too many. We weren't going to play for 2 days in St. Louis, and then we were all going to go out. And so we got buckets of water. We started throwing them at each other on the balconies, and Shaky tripped, and he went through the plate glass window. And I'm convinced to this day that Kenny Hodge probably saved his life, because Kenny put tourniquets on him with towels, and we rushed him to the hospital, and Shaky got he was okay. He didn't play for quite a while after that, but he was okay. And it was scary, but because I went through the Ted Green thing when Teddy Green got nailed by Wayne Mackey. It was scary with Shaky, but he came back strong. Now he has some scars. I'm sure he still has them. But boy, did that teach us a lesson.
Yeah.
No fooling around with the plate glass windows.
Don't do that.
But the other thing with Shaky is, I'll never forget watching the All-Star game. He wanted to fight Gordie Howe. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
That's funny. Why would you want to fight Gordie? That's nuts.
I have no idea.
That's just nuts. Glenn,
my first game in the NHL, Eric, was in Montreal. I didn't play. I just sat there, right? Next game, we're in Detroit. And it's the third period, and Billy Ray says to me, Esposito, you go out there with Hull and Reggie Fleming and let Bobby take the face-off. And I skate out, and I see I'm going right against Gordie on the face-off. And I see Alex Delvecchio, Hall of Famer, Ted Lindsay, Hall of Famer, Pierre Pilote, Glenn Hall, Bobby Hull, Bill Gadsby. Holy Max. These guys are, and I'm like, and Bobby yells at me. He says, you got that old so-and-so? I said, I got him. And Gordie just smiled. Puck drops. He gives me an elbow right here. And if you ever get hit here, tears, okay?
Absolutely.
I ended up getting 6 stitches. I was on the ice 6 seconds, 6 stitches, and I sat in the penalty box. And in those days, a copper and usher sat between you. And I had a towel with some ice. I had to go in first because it was in the Olympia. And I leaned over and I says, and you used to be my so-and-so idol. He says, what you say, Wapo? I went, ooh, nothing, Mr. Howe. Absolutely nothing. I'll tell you the truth. He never bothered me again. He did tell me one time that he tested everybody. Sure. Every rookie that came in the game, he tested. If you didn't respond, he said, I owned you. For as long as you played, I owned you. And I thought, wow. And he said, you responded. Because I did. I whacked him with my stick across the hips, because that's the only place we had pads in those days.
Sure.
And one other quick story. My first All-Star game, I believe, was in St. Louis, playing with Bobby and Gordie. And Gordie comes out and he says, what do you want me on the face-off, kid? And I turned to him and I says, how about on the bench? And he looked at me and I goes, I'm joking.
That's funny. That's a great story. Hey, guys, I see all your comments coming in. I'm not going to be able to get to very many more of these. We got about 5 minutes left, but I want to ask, this is a good question here. Phil, did you have any idea that Ray Bourque would take off his jersey number 7 and switch to 77 when the Bruins retired your number? How emotional was that for you when you realized what was going on?
I had no idea. I remember when Harry Sinden called me and he said, Phil, we want to retire your number. I said, what about Raymond? He says, well, we're going to talk about that. And I said, look, I have no problem going with Borky. I says, put my name on the top because I'm older and he's got to respect that.
Right.
And put Bork when he retires on the bottom, number 7. I had no problem with that. Ray Bork is a classy, unbelievable guy and a great, great hockey player. So I had no problem with that. But when he took it off, and from what I understand, there was only 3 people that knew. I think Terry O'Reilly, who was the coach, Harry, and Borky.
That was it.
And when he started to take it off, and if you ever see the video, if you can read lips, I say like, what the F are you doing? And he said, this is yours, big fellow. It always should have been yours and nobody else's. Well, right now I get choked up when I think about what he said there. And that was phenomenal. That was absolutely phenomenal that he did that. And that's the kind of guy he is, though, you know?
Yeah.
He's just a good, down-to-earth guy.
I was living in Denver when he won his first cup with the Avalanche, and I remember how excited as the Avs were, but he took that cup back to Boston and had a big party with it.
You think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you think about that. He took it back to Boston before all the rigmaroles of guys taking it home and all this other stuff. But imagine him taking it back to Boston and them the city doing something for him.
Right.
That's how much he was revered and liked.
Yeah, that's a great story. We're going to end on this question. Guys, I see all your other questions. I'm sorry I couldn't get to them. This is maybe a controversial one. Mr. Peter wants to know, or Gretzky, greatest player. Who's the greatest player?
Well, Bobby Orr could not play forward or center, and Gretzky could not play defense. So how do you compare?
There you go.
And he certainly couldn't play goalie. How do you compare? Bobby Orr is the greatest defenseman ever. And Gretzky, to me, was the greatest centerman. Okay? But maybe the greatest all-around player who could play center, wing, or defense, and I wouldn't be surprised if he'd go in goal, was Gordie Howe.
Yeah, it's hard to argue Gordie Howe. It's all right there.
Bobby Orr revolutionized this game. You think about it. Had he not got his knees sore, he only played 8 or 9 years, and maybe 7 years of being half healthy. It would have been amazing what he would have done, and how the things that Wayne did in this game and for the game.
Right.
How do you discount that?
Right.
You know, do you take that into account on ice? And I've always said this, and I've said it to Bobby. I've said it to Wayne. I couldn't pick between the two of them because they played different positions. And I don't know how you could say that's the greatest player.
Right.
But he couldn't play forward. Or that's the greatest player, but he couldn't play defense.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's a good question. That's a good way to answer that. Guys, I think that's it. We're all wrapped up on time here. I'm sure Mikey will jump in here in a minute and let everybody know what's going to happen next. But Phil, thank you so much for your time today. I had a great time doing this, and I would love to do it anytime. Awesome.
Outside of trying to get this on all this stuff, it was terrific.
Yes, sir.
And Phil, stay with us. So everyone, Phil's now going over to do his VIP experience. If you don't have a ticket, you can still get one at sportcardexpo.com. And we'll see you there. Phil, stay with us. Eric, stay with me.
You got it.